Hi everybody.
Hi, everyone.
I'm here with my best buddy Jason, the
Hi.
creator and host of the Ensign's Log and Late
Mm.
Seating, and my fellow big giant Star Trek nerd. And what we're going to do for you for the next, I guess, 10 weeks is review season 3 of Star Trek Picard. And the way this is going to work is we're going to watch the episode together and then we're going to record right after we're finished watching it. So we just watched for the first time,
Literally minutes ago,
episode 1 of season 3 of Star Trek Picard.
Are you sure that's what we watched?
Well, I was going to say, I had thought, before we watched it and before we sat down to record this, I thought, should we do after we watch it, should we do a quick plot summary of what happens in the episode? Just go watch Star Trek 2.
Or 3.
Or 3, because there's oh my God.
Sit down and listen to the soundtracks of those movies.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So what are some of your first impressions on episode 1, Jason?
So I made the remark during Picard season 2 when they made the announcement that they were bringing the old cast back midway through the season, because Picard season 2 was everyone seemed to hate it.
Yeah,
I'm sure that there are people out there that loved it, but for the most part, everyone that I talked to, they really disliked Picard season 2 for very obvious reasons. And so when it came to Picard season 3, it seemed they rushed this trailer out that said, hey, next year, we're going to give you everything that you guys have been complaining about not getting. And I think they turned far way into the skid, because this really became if there was something that they could get away with referencing, they were going to do it. This was Member Berries, the fucking pilot episode, because we got TNG Easter eggs, some of which we predicted ahead of time, way ahead of time.
Yeah. The
redesign of the Titan makes it look like it's the old Enterprise from the motion picture series.
Yeah.
The musical cues were directly lifted or inspired by music from Star Trek 2, Star Trek 6, and you even said it. The outro music was the
First Contact.
Just everything. It was like they were going out of their ways to say, no. See, we're not going to be like the last time. We're not going to be like the last time, because we're giving you all of this Star Trek content, which does nothing to forward the plot that they're introducing. It's just Star Trek crap. And then when you pull all that Star Trek crap away, we're left with what the plot is supposed to be. And this is the pilot. And as I think you'll agree with me, the pilot is usually the episode where we can't really make a judgment about the entire series, because it's setting everything. It's setting everything.
Yeah, it's the setup. Yeah.
But much like an abused housewife, we know the sound of those keys jangling in the door at 11 o'clock at night.
Yes.
And they may sound harmless. Maybe this time it'll be fine. You hear him walking around downstairs, mumbling to himself. Everything's fine. It's all quiet. But we have no idea if these new writers, I think they have a new showrunner.
Terry Matalas is the new showrunner. Yeah.
They're going to fall into the same problems that they have fallen into the last 2 seasons of Picard. But now they get to do it with all of our favorite characters from TNG. And that's the problem. Overall, this episode was... We really did laugh a lot, Steve.
We did, but I was laughing. I was laughing at it. I was not laughing with it.
No. It wasn't trying to... There were jokes in there trying to get us to laugh. Yeah. But I mean, we were so not sucked in by the 5 mystery boxes that they set up in the pilot.
What's Raffi doing? What's Beverly doing? Okay. What's the deal with the captain? Who's the mysterious villain?
Here are the mystery boxes. Why did Beverly leave for 20 some odd years?
Why did Beverly cut everybody off?
That we guessed at. We guessed at it. That's one. Who's attacking Starfleet with this strange new weapon stolen from the Daystrom Institute?
Yeah.
What happened to Deanna and Riker? They're not together no more.
They suddenly have a troubled marriage.
Who's the bad guy? Who's the bad guy? And is there another one that I'm missing? I'm sure I'm missing one.
Probably. Who's the father of Beverly's son?
Oh, that's Jean-Luc Picard.
Well, obviously, but we're meant to,
That's Jean-Luc Picard. I think my microphone muted. I'm not sure. Yeah. We guessed that.
My favorite bit of just watching this with you just now, because first of all, I'm assuming that everybody who's watching this has seen the episode. So it's Star Trek 2.
Yes, it is.
I mean, not quite beat for beat, but there are so many direct, blatant, shameless lifts from Star Trek 2.
It's a combo of 2 and 3.
Yeah, because there's a couple of moments from 3, but when we were getting close to the end and Riker and Picard finally get to the ship that Beverly's on. And by the way, I will give the show credit for this. At least they find Beverly in the first episode instead of the third
thank
episode.
God. Or the fourth
at least,
one.
Yeah. And I was like, hey, they're off. They've left Earth already. That's an improvement on the first 2 seasons right there. But so they get to the ship. Beverly's in some kind of stasis chamber because she's been wounded, and then the other guy, which turns out to be her son,
David.
Yeah, and that's what you said. You said this has to be Beverly's son because when David meets Kirk for the first time, they have a fight.
David's pointing a phaser at him. They have a fight.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happens in this. And then literally the next thing the guy says is, "I'm her son," and I'm like, "Holy shit!" They just went.
And didn't we say that she left because she was pregnant?
Yeah, that's true. We guessed that too. And which they haven't come out and said that's why she left. But
But we also said, how do you write this? What was it? How can we make these guesses? Pick the most obvious, stupidest thing.
Yeah. Pick the dumbest thing and that's it. And that's so far so good.
So to explain, Beverly's been gone for 20 something years. She just cut off all contact and hasn't talked to anybody from the crew at all in more than 20 years. And I immediately said, she got pregnant. She got pregnant somehow, It's the future, People, postmenopausal women can of course get pregnant. That's not a thing.
Sure.
I mean, look at Loxana Troy. She got pregnant and she was well into her 60s.
Yeah.
Right?
At least we're safe from that particular cameo. Well, maybe not. They could CGI her.
CGI doubling. You don't know.
They could Princess Leia that shit.
That's right. But she apparently, and then we predicted, she got pregnant. And then at the end of the episode, there's this guy with a British accent, because I guess you can inherit those. Now they did not confirm that it was Jean-Luc's kid.
No.
But Jesus Christ, if we go with choose the dumbest option, it's going to be Jean-Luc's kid.
There you go.
Who somehow inherited his accent. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Oh, because I'll tell you how. He was listening to the old captain's logs.
Oh, that's right. They were just playing those for some reason about the Borg attack.
Yep. So he grew up listening to his father's old captain's logs from the Enterprise, and that's how he learned to speak, and that's where he got the accent. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
I could write for this fucking show. I couldn't sleep at night, but I could write for this fucking show.
I hate this, but I think I figured out what's going on already.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy.
So we know that she's been hunted by this monster ship. Another one of those spidery monster ships.
Yep. Scary ship.
Scary ship. And the guy and the son and the boy, whatever his name is, says, we don't, they always look different every time we see them. They're different every time we see them, right?
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet that it's a coalition of races that have been destroyed by the Borg that are now angry because the Borg have been recognized and have gained entrance into the Federation and they haven't.
That's something.
If I was going to take a wild stab.
And we know that the Picard show, for whatever reason, is joined at the hip with the Borg.
I know.
Because there's Borg shit in the first season. The Borg Queen is in the second season. Well, what's the Borg thing this year? There's got to be a Borg thing. Can't possibly do a Picard show without a Borg thing. Yeah.
But overall, what do you think, Steve? What do you think? When you walked away from this?
I enjoyed watching it with you.
Sure.
Because we could laugh at it and
we decided we weren't going to suffer alone together.
Yes.
We'd suffer together rather than alone.
Yeah. So it's kind of what I was hoping for, in the sense that I recall I've told this to you a few times. I was hoping for it to be so awful that it'll just be an entertaining train wreck.
Sure.
And I feel like we're on course for that.
We don't know yet, but
we don't. It could get a lot better from this point on.
Sure.
But right now, judging on the first episode, other than just the sadistic pleasure of laughing at it and how shameless it is in its attempt to evoke nostalgia at the expense of literally everything else.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing here. Like, the story is, they at least get further into the plot by the end of episode 1 than in either of the previous 2 seasons of the show.
Sure.
I'll give it credit for that. But they still, like, we just watched almost an hour of an episode, and what happens is Beverly gets in trouble, calls Jean-Luc for help,
kills a couple of people. Yeah. And by the very, very end of the episode, Picard and Riker have just barely managed to get there. And that's it. That's what happens. Mm-hmm.
Picard gets called for help. He and Riker managed to make it there before the end of the episode. So very little has actually happened yet.
You forgot all the stuff with Raffi.
Oh, the Raffi thing.
And, our favorite drug addict.
And her secret contact in Starfleet intelligence, which is obviously Worf. I don't know why they're playing around with that. I don't know why they won't just have it be Worf. It's no fun.
They could only pay Dorn for a certain number of appearances on the show.
Because I hope he's making him pay. I hope he's making him pay him so much to put that makeup back on. My saving grace of this series, no matter how bad this show ends up being, is I hope Michael Dorn gets.
I hope he soaks
the biggest paycheck of his career to put that makeup back on and play this character in what seems like it's going to be a fucking dog shit show. Good for you, Michael Dorn. I hope he soaked him too. But I mean, no, in terms of like an actual show, like getting invested in it as drama and characters and stuff, there's nothing here. It's just poking your nostalgia bone. It's just, remember this, it's even worse as far as that goes than I expected it to be.
Oh, it goes crazy with it's like they got a note that said people don't like the world of the Federation that you created in the last 2 shows. And hey, take a look at Discovery. But Discovery doesn't do this shit.
No, not even close.
When they do have stuff like that, the most nostalgic stuff you get on not Discovery, on Strange New Worlds.
Strange New Worlds. Yeah.
The most nostalgic things that you get on Strange New Worlds, other than the design of the Enterprise, is its sound effects. Everything else has been kind of updated, and there are some plot-related things, but they're plot-related things, right? It feeds into the plot of the show if they're going to be referencing anything, right? It's not just there to be there.
And the show doesn't rely on just reminding you of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The stories are new stories that that are capable of engaging you in their own right. It's not. I mean, they're almost every single thing in this episode was an Easter egg.
Yeah,
almost every single thing.
When we joined Jean-Luc Picard, the very first thing we see in the chateau was a painting that was not present beforehand, and it's the old painting of the Enterprise that was in the conference room, wasn't it?
It was either in the ready room or maybe it was the one from his quarters.
It was in his ready
a painting of the Enterprise in his quarters.
It was in his ready room. It was
the ready room. Okay, yeah, the one over the couch.
Mm-hmm. And he says, "I think I'll give this to Geordi," and then he whips out his little fucking flute from that time
you called it the Kurlan Neskar, the little statue thing that he got.
I said, we're probably going to see the Kurlan Neskar. And then we went off to something else. And I said, okay, they avoided it. And then we came right back to it. And there was the Kurlan fucking Neskar on his
it had materialized on his desk out of thin air.
Mm-hmm. Oh. And it's like it's like they went out of their way to pack it. Now, that's the first layer of packing. Just visual stuff that you see that are member berries. But then on top of that, they have stolen the soundtracks from the movies.
Yeah.
And put them into this show.
Yes.
And I pointed out one of the funnier ones. So after Jean-Luc gets his message from Crusher, he takes it to Will Riker. They meet in a bar. They sit down. They drink an entire bottle of whiskey together. These two old men.
Two old men kill an entire bottle of whiskey between them.
They get up and kind of stumble, old man-like, away from their table to this rousing Star Trek music.
It's two senior citizens ambling out of the shot.
That's right. And I'm like, okay, so it's obvious you guys are going to you're pulling musical cues directly from Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
Yes.
And Star Trek, the main theme from both the series and from Star Trek the Motion Picture.
Yeah. The ba 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 ba. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And from other Star Trek movies.
Yeah.
That are, I will admit, they elicit an emotional response from me.
It's great music. It's great. They're great scores. Absolutely.
But I didn't need that musical build to watch two old men stumble away from a bar table. Shall we talk about? Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I was just going to say it's not just that it's not just that it uses familiar music. It's so overused. Those themes were not used that frequently in the actual movies that they're taken from.
No, they weren't.
Like they reuse these hero themes from the classic movies. It's like you didn't hear this music that often in the movie you're taking it from.
And they've brought back the font for the beginning. There's no longer some weird Picard title sequence that you have to sit through or hit skip intro.
It's just something. It's another thing lifted from the movies,
which, by the way, is better. I'm glad that they made that change. We don't need.
Oh, sure. A shorter title sequence is fine. Yeah.
Let's talk about Blade Runner Planet.
Oh my God. Yeah, because they're it's not just Star Trek ripping off itself. It's we'll rip off Blade Runner
because they said, oh look, they're on Blade Runner Planet, and then they cut to that shot where she looks up and there's like things flying through the sky, and you're like, holy shit, it is Blade Runner Planet.
It's not just reminiscent of Blade Runner or inspired by Blade Runner, as a lot of sci-fi after Blade Runner was. It's like, oh no, this literally is Blade Runner. She even meets a guy at a fucking food stand. I mean, it's
I think you need to make our reactions to the shows a riff tracks for your patrons, because it was a lot of fun to do.
Watching it is a ton of fun. Watching it with you and making fun of it is a ton of fun. But like, if I am trying to judge it as a TV show, it's garbage.
It's trying
fucking garbage.
So in some of the writing, they're trying to have a bit more camaraderie between number one and Picard.
Yeah,
which kind of works.
It's a good idea. I mean, yeah.
I believe in what we saw this time. I truly believe more that they are friends this way, because they're giving each other a little bit of shit, right?
And they seem comfortable with each other.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, Picard always looks comfortable, because if he's not sitting down, he's laying down in every scene that he's sitting
down. And he always looks like whenever there's a couple of times in the episode where he and Riker are like together doing something, and Riker will say something, and Picard he
looks like he woke up. Like
it looks like he just woke up. Like,
that, and we did make fun of the fact that Picard and Riker walk into a room, and Picard immediately sits down.
Yes, and he's the only character sitting.
If they're going to do it, they need to acknowledge the fact that he needs to sit down a lot.
Yeah, he's old.
But they've completely forgotten that he's a robot. He even mentions that he had a rush of adrenaline. No, you didn't.
You don't have adrenaline, buddy.
You don't have adrenaline no more. Not quite sure why you're doing any of the things that you're doing.
And you noticed Riker mentioned that he has bad knees.
Yeah, I like that.
Which is nice. That's cool. Yeah, but it's like, what about the fucking 100-year-old dude right next to you who can't stand up for more than 10 minutes at a time?
Looking for a chair every time he enters a room.
Who is constantly scanning for chairs whenever he walks through a door.
That's also when you notice that the phasers had returned back to old-fashioned type phasers. Rafi has a flip communicator. From the original series.
It's all nostalgia.
I don't think we see a single person click their comm badge once.
Yeah.
Except when Jean-Luc has to go digging through his stuff to find his communicator, because that's what.
Oh yeah, and again, an example of the Cracker Jack screenwriting, where it takes him 3 minutes that we have to sit there and watch for him to answer a call from a person who we know who it's from.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's treated like somebody like a computer. Who could this be from? Analyze the scene. I'm like, dude, we know it's from Crusher. We just watched that scene. Why do we have to watch him figure it out?
They remind us that it's New Trek almost immediately. 3 minutes in, maybe even less than that. And she's a character that we've never actually, I think, ever hold a weapon, except maybe in Insurrection.
Insurrection, she has a phaser rifle, yeah.
I don't think she ever shoots it. If she does, she shoots it at a robot.
I think she shoots it at a robot. Watch out, Jean-Luc.
But within the first
and of
minutes,
course, and you cock it like a shotgun because it's that kind of stupid.
It's that kind of stupid.
Because we're that dumb. We're that dumb.
It also runs out of power after 4 shots.
An actual shotgun gives you more shots than this high-tech phaser rifle.
But we get to see a main character in a laser battle, in a gun fight. We get to see her kill 2 people. We get to see her double tap somebody.
Yeah. And don't forget, they're also bad guys with scary masks.
Oh yeah, we call them space Skeksis.
They're space Skeksis. They have scary masks, so they're bad guys. Mm-hmm. They have scary masks, and their ship looks scary because they're bad guys, and that's how it goes.
We don't know. Where are they from? We don't know. Why are they chasing her? We don't know. In the preview for the upcoming season, someone said, we don't know who they are. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, how long is this going to be before the reveal?
Wait till episode 9 when you find out who they are and what this has all been about.
In the meantime, we're going to have a whole bunch of personal problems. Everybody's going to have a personal problem. Geordi's going to have a personal problem about becoming too close to your crewmates.
Sure.
He talks to, we got to meet his daughter, Crash LaForge.
Yes.
See, I think the last 2 seasons for me really just they have a lot of hurdles they need to clear in order for me to seriously enjoy it. Right now, we're enjoying it because Steve and I are together, we make jokes, and it makes the pill go down easier.
Absolutely.
But if I was just watching this show on my own, I honestly think my eyes would have rolled out of my body because of all of the fucking member berries and Easter eggs and it's not really okay. I take umbrage in calling something an Easter egg if they show it to you. You don't pick up an Easter egg and go, here's an Easter egg, little kid, and they grab it. It's
literally framed center of the shot. Look at this. You recognize this, don't you?
You used to have to look for the Easter eggs, right? The oscillation overthruster is in the Phoenix, but you'd have to look for it in order
to back there. Yeah.
True Easter egg. Not if the opening shot of Picard's mansion is the painting from his wedding room.
Yeah, you're right. That's not really an Easter egg. That's just a reference.
The musical cues aren't Easter eggs, right?
No.
The suitcase that Beverly has from Jack Crusher.
The giant red, for some reason, statue of Rachel Garrett. A character who appeared in 1 episode.
Yeah.
But certain members of the fan base are obsessed with. And I mean, no, nothing against Rachel Garrett.
She was important. What are you talking about?
She was an important character in that episode, and the actress who plays her, I forget her name now, but she did a bunch of TV in the 80s and 90s. She's terrific. Like nothing against her at all. but it's a nerd fan reference. And
Sure.
like you said, like every chance they get in this episode to do that, they do it.
Oh,
Why
yeah,
is it
they
a
do.
statue of Rachel? Why is it a statue of Rachel Garrett? Oh, because that's a name we'll recognize.
Right. That's what everyone will recognize. Why can't it be an artistic sculpture of a lady outside of a Starfleet thing?
Why waste an opportunity to make a reference?
Yeah, true.
I mean, that feels like the philosophy of the philosophy of writing at least this episode. And like you say, it's just the first episode. Maybe the rest of the season will go a different direction, or maybe some of these things will shake out differently. But I mean, just
isn't that what we said about the first episode of season 1 and the first episode of season 2 was maybe this will turn into something, and then it doesn't.
Fool me once. But yeah, I mean, it feels like the philosophy of behind the writing of the show, based on what we've seen so far, which admittedly is just one episode, is if you can possibly make a reference to some old Star Trek shit, then do it.
Yeah.
And
that's what they did.
Yeah. And that's what they did. Boy, they went nuts with that shit.
So when we say it has some similarities, this is what to the movies. This is what we mean. For Star Trek 3, we have two characters that have to get across the galaxy, and they have to do it subversive. They can't tell the crew. It was a little bit like when the crew steals the Enterprise to go try to save Spock in Star Trek 3.
In Star Trek 3, yeah.
We've already mentioned the David similarities from Star Trek 2 with this kid who's the kid of a doctor that the captain used to have a relationship with. And they were dropping those hints. Even, someone, his current Romulan girlfriend, whatever her name is, asked her about it. Did you guys ever have a, and he said, oh, we tried, but, something along those lines.
Yeah.
I couldn't get it up. Or I don't know what he said.
It was before I was a robot. I wasn't performing well.
That's right. The shots of the Titan leaving freaking Starfleet space headquarters, the big mushroom.
Yeah.
Remember that? And just
that's back.
I think both of us physically groaned when we saw the Titan.
Because
I think both of us physically went, oh my. I was I could not believe. I know I have a complaint. I don't like the arrowhead design of the starships. I would never like them.
Right.
My preference is for the rounded saucer section, but that's just a personal preference. But I think enough people complained, and also so many people are huge fans of Strange New Worlds at this point, that they decided that the Titan just got a retrofit. And I think they took retro a little too. I don't think they knew what that word meant. Yeah. Because the saucer section now looks exactly like me. Not exactly, but so similar to the saucer section from the movies, from Star Trek 1 on.
Yeah.
That both of us just went, oh my God.
It's the movie version of the Enterprise, just flattened out a little, and you notice they added a little junk to the neck. Yeah,
it's got like a thicker neck.
Yeah, that's about it. It's yeah. But it's not the Enterprise. No. It's the Titan.
And then, of course, the outro credits is all LCAR screens.
Yeah, because they're people, fucking Star Trek nerds love their LCARs porn.
Yep, they do.
Oh, the LCARs. And I guess the thing about it is, because I follow a lot of Star Trek people on Twitter and such, and sure. the reaction among most of the people I follow to this episode has been just glowingly positive.
Really?
Like they have just loved it. And after having watched it, it's like, well, I guess this is what people want.
They want to be reminded of things that they like.
Yeah. And it's obviously not the only thing they want, because a lot of the people I follow also love, Strange New Worlds, which takes established elements but tries to do something a little more original with them than this. But it's like they watch, all they need is show me the people I used to watch, show me the LCARS thing, show me a ship that looks like the old ship. That's literally all they want.
I got something that's perfect for them then. It's called a rerun.
It's called
Watch
Star
that.
Trek: The Next Generation.
That's right. You can watch the entire series on Amazon or Paramount Plus now.
On Paramount Plus. If you're in the United States and you're watching it on Paramount Plus, it's on the same service. Just watch that.
I don't mind the use of Easter eggs or things just so long as they're in service of the plot, not just to be there to give someone a happy feeling that they're seeing something.
I'm much more, I mean, it's just like a philosophical thing with me. Like, I would prefer, if I were writing it, I would prefer to avoid them if at all possible. But I'm much more tolerant of it and accepting of it if either it's something like you were saying, like how Easter eggs used to be, where it's just something in the background, and if you notice it, you notice it, and if you don't, you don't. It's not in your face, and it doesn't really matter either way. It's just like a little thing. We're like, oh, hey, it's that thing from the thing, right?
Exactly.
Either that, or like you said, it's integral to the plot, and it makes sense that it's there for some reason other than so the audience can go, oh.
And that's all it is there for. This one, that's all it's there for.
Do you want to mention the off-the-shelf Eagle Moss?
Oh, dear God.
Star Trek models in the bar?
So for those who don't know, Eagle Moss was making the ships. They made all, like, even if it appeared on a TV show for 2 seconds, they were making a little model that you could buy from them, and this company called Eagle Moss. They've gone out of business because I think they overestimated how many people are going to want, these ships. Yeah. But they cut from the painting of the Enterprise D to these models, and they're just fucking Eagle Moss models. I don't know if they painted over them or something like that, but they're all over this fucking bar.
And they even have the little plastic holder that attaches it to the stand. Yeah,
you have one, don't you?
I have a couple.
Isn't the Defiant your?
I have the
Eagle
Defiant
Moss?
That is an Eagle Moss. Yeah, and the Enterprise E.
Yeah, that's the main difference between Steve buys, I make. So that's the
right. I'm too lazy.
Difference.
I don't build models. I just buy them.
I have a Defiant that's about the same size as his, but I built it.
But you actually built it,
and I lit it. So there's but that's like the main difference between the two of us is that we buy. And I saw the Eagle Moss stuff, and I thought, oh, okay, that's neat. But I, much prefer making my stuff. But this Eagle Moss, they must have bought them out because Eagle Moss is out of business.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, they must have bought all the surplus stock and just stuck it all over this bar.
Stuck it in the background of the bar. Yeah.
What was the name of that whiskey that they were drinking, by the way?
I don't know, but you said that must be a commercial because they made sure to turn the label toward the camera.
I need to know if it is. Oh, fuck.
Is it product placement?
I think it is.
I mean, I hope it's...
There is a Stafford's bourbon.
Okay, well, there you go.
Oh boy.
I hope it's at least like a classy whiskey. I mean, if they're going to do product placement, at least they're not doing like, just like a big bottle of Coke in the middle of the table, or like Budweiser in the first Star Trek reboot when Uhura orders a Budweiser at the bar.
God, I don't even want to think about that. But I mean, the basic thing is that the fact that I'm supposed to be engaged. I'm not engaged with what they're talking about. That was right. That was during the weird Hellbird. Remember when you were caught by the Borg and they encrypted our records and added a 3 to everything?
Yeah, there's something about if you add a 3 to the end of all the numbers, then it cracks the code
or some bullshit.
Whatever.
And that's where they go, hey, we need to get a ship. Right?
Yeah. And even though Picard was able to hire a private ship relatively easily in season 1, now the only way they can get on the ship is to lie their way onto the Titan and pretend they're on an inspection.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good thing the Titan is captained by the worst captain in Starfleet, who apparently supposedly runs a super tight by the book ship, but also is never on the bridge and is always asleep or in his private dining room getting drunk.
I have a bad feeling, Steve. They set it up that Geordi LaForge is in charge of what?
The Fleet Museum.
Which is basically the museum of all the ships.
Right. Oh, so that's how we're going to get them all on the old ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or something equally stupid, or
Yeah.
just more member berries. Because I'm sure Voyager's going to be in there.
Oh, they mentioned Janeway. They name dropped Janeway.
The Defiant's going to be in there.
Sure, why not? Let's get it all over everything.
Maybe they'll completely shit the bed, forget, and the Galaxy class Enterprise will be there.
No, the Fleet Museum here. I'm going to call it now, and I usually don't like to do this, but after
we did it during this episode, and we were right I was just going to say. Time.
After seeing this episode, and I feel like I've kind of got the vibe of the show. Shameless, blatant nostalgia, wall to wall. If by the end of these 10 episodes, we do not see these characters on the bridge of the Enterprise D together, I will be very surprised. Now, maybe it'll be the actual ship that they like salvaged from the crash site. Maybe it'll be a recreation or a holodeck or whatever. These people at some point, probably in the last episode, because that'll be, that's what you've all been waiting for. Not the resolution to the story. Not the resolution to the story.
I've already seen the scene, dude. The Picard and Riker get to the Fleet Museum to talk to Geordi, and he goes, "My God, is that?" And yes. Geordi goes, "Well, it took some time and a little bit of money. We had, of course, to recreate the engineering hull section. But, the saucer section is almost complete and intact, including the bridge." And they pan out, and it's the fucking Enterprise goddamn
it's the Enterprise D. And then you get everybody back on the bridge.
Oh, sure.
Sitting where they always sat on the
mystery enemy attacks, and they all run into the D.
They have to fight it off with the Enterprise D.
And he's like, "Geordi, can this run?" And he says, "We didn't expect to take it into battle, Captain." And he's back down in engineering. And they've got a few dilithium crystals to move it around in the Fleet Museum. But he might be able to give them warp drive if they try really hard.
God. And they have to bring the big door down so LeVar Burton can roll under it one more time. But he's old now, so he can't quite do it. So his daughter has to roll him under it like a log.
Yeah, and his daughter's now going to be, the navigator for the new D.
Good old Crash. D. Good old Crash.
Crash
LaForge. Jesus Christ.
Do you remember her first name?
I don't. They said it, but I can't remember.
They did say it.
Because they immediately established her as Crash after saying Ensign, whatever her name, LaForge.
And as soon as I saw her standing there smiling, I was like, "Oh shit, that's Geordi's kid."
Please don't let her mom be Leah Brahms. That's all I ask.
Please, they can't help it, Steve.
I know. In this show, her mom has got to be Leah Brahms.
More than likely.
Yeah. Because it's this show, and that's just, like you said, they can't help themselves.
Or
it's not just it's not just
there are
that
three possibilities.
Okay,
it's Leah Brahms and she's alive.
Yes,
it's Leah Brahms or she's dead because they want our characters to hurt and have a past or whatever. Yes. Or it's not Leah Brahms and she's dead, so they don't have to
somebody. It's somebody else, and it's what's her name, Julie from like season 3 of TNG, who we went out on a date with.
I hope that she's an android.
Christy.
I hope that Data went crazy. Not Data. I hope Geordi went crazy.
He built himself a wife.
He tried to recreate Lal, and instead made his own daughter.
He made his own daughter.
Mm-hmm. Out of loneliness.
And named her Crash.
That was her nickname.
I know. She because she crashed a shuttle. So of course they gave her the job of flying the USS Titan.
They gave her some compliments, but also that she had a tendency to crash.
And the thing is, some of this stuff would be okay.
What they call Wesley, considering the stunt he pulled, killer, good old killer crusher,
killer crusher. The thing is, in a better show, in a show that was good in any sense, some of this stuff would be okay. Like the idea of, she's the navigator, but she had a shuttle accident at the academy, so they call her Crash. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
That's a pull from Generations.
Is it?
Who's navigator on board the Enterprise when they take it out before they find the Who stands up and smiles at Captain Kirk? Sulu's daughter.
It's Sulu's daughter. Oh my God. That is another fucking lift from the movies.
What was Geordi doing before he became chief of engineering?
Oh God.
He was the navigator.
He was the navigator on the bridge. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Christ.
The more you think about it, the worse it gets. Now I'm starting to wonder, is everything a reference to something else in this pilot?
And you know, they took Seven's character development in the least interesting direction they possibly could have, which is to have her join Starfleet.
You mean the person that has never been to Starfleet Academy, never graduated, has actually never served as an officer in Starfleet?
Well, yeah. And apparently, yeah, Captain Picard and Captain Janeway called in some favors, and she just got minted a commander and got to be first officer of a ship right away. That's not even the problem that I have with it. I mean, that, you know, might strain credibility a little, but I don't really care about that as much as the fact that one of the things I liked, at least in theory, about the first season of the show, which certainly had its problems, was when we catch back up with Seven, it's like, oh, she's just doing something completely different. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, and yeah, there are problems with like you said, oh, she's murdering people. She's a
space killer.
But it's like, you know, they didn't go the obvious route. She wasn't in Starfleet. She wasn't serving on some fucking starship. She was out in some other part of the galaxy doing something completely different. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. At least on paper, that's interesting. It's a neat idea. Now we're in season 3. Nope, fuck it. Put her in a uniform. She's in Starfleet. Fuck it. And it's like, oh, okay. I guess that's just everybody's in Starfleet. Mm-hmm. And I get it. It's Star Trek, but like, you know.
But Picard had his trauma crew. Everyone,
yes, that's right.
Everyone had trauma, and they're setting it up so that everyone has trauma. You know.
Oh, that
Beverly probably has baby trauma.
Sure.
Will apparently has marriage trauma.
For some, out of nowhere.
From the preview.
I guess not out of nowhere, because it was the season 1, and then I guess they started having troubles off screen during season 2.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, oh, by the way, my marriage is a wreck.
They implied that she got upset that as soon as Jean-Luc Picard needed help, he ran off, and he can easily counter. The whole galaxy was being threatened by tentacle robots from another dimension.
Yeah,
what was it supposed to do?
And also, you served on the same ship.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like she was always like the bitter, resentful wife at home. It's like, why do you always leave on your starship? It's like, no, he was your captain too. I feel like you should kind of get it, right?
Didn't you know what the lifestyle is by now?
Yeah, like you were an officer in the same service as I was.
Geordi's going to have some kind of fucked up, you lose your friends because of Starfleet trauma.
Yep.
Probably connected to Data dying, which would have been awesome had he been present at all.
That should be Geordi's thing. He's mad at Picard for not calling him before he took Data off life support.
If they're smart, they would be, but you know.
It was only my best friend, but that's fine, whatever.
And I'm sure Worf is going to have some sort of trauma too. He's now a pacifist. How does that work as a Klingon?
Well, you pointed out when they show when they show the preview of we're coming up this season on Star Trek Picard, and they've established through a couple of the trailers that, you know, Worf is a pacifist now, but like every single shot we see of Worf is of him fighting somebody.
Yeah.
So he's the pacifist who carries a sword around and always fights people. But he's a pacifist because that's different, but not really. Because you really don't want it to be different, do you? You want it to be exactly the same.
You want it to be the same.
Yeah.
And remember, I warned you last year when they announced this. I said, oh boy, they get to do to the TNG cast what they did to everybody during season 1 and 2 of Picard. Boy, oh boy, I can't wait to see what that amounts to. I want Picard dead. Real dead at the end of this season.
For real, not robot dead.
I don't wish any ill intent on the actor, although since this discussion has only been held between me and you in private, I can now make it public on your show. If you want to know, in my opinion, what the big problem with Picard season 1 and 2 has been, it is the fact that Patrick Stewart has been sitting in the writer's room.
Yeah.
And he comes in and he says, if you want me to be in this super hit show that you want to make, then I have some demands. I don't want to share the screen with any of my other. He literally said this.
I want it to be the me show.
It's the me show, and I don't want it to be a reunion show. Well, they gave him 2 bites of that apple, and it turned out no one liked it. And they said, hey, you want to earn your paycheck for the 3rd season? Oh, please. Then you're going to do the reunion show.
We're doing the reunion show now.
Because this bears no similarity, at least in its current construction.
Yeah.
But it also feels, so this is the actual review of the first episode. They're pandering. Hardcore. And I don't think they're pandering necessarily to make the fans feel better. I think they're pandering to get a 3rd season up. There's a lot of contracts involved, contracts with Patrick Stewart, contracts with, Paramount Plus, everyone, they're laying out money for this 3rd season, and it has to work. They cannot have the diminishing returns that they had in season 2. They have to make sure that season 3 grabs an audience and keeps an audience to the end. Otherwise, someone's losing money. Right.
Yeah.
And, I don't know the status of the other shows, how well they're doing. I know that all of them have their fans. I know that Strange New Worlds is the breakout one out of all of them.
Yeah. It seems to be.
That one has like almost universal praise from everybody, no matter what type of fan you think you are. Now, I know that there are going to be a lot of people who love this episode, but I am far too old to be tricked into nostalgia berries, member berries about the show.
Yeah.
I unfortunately, because of the Ensign's Log podcast, I live in that, and I try to avoid them when I can, right? And only bring them in if it's inherent to the plot of our show, right?
Right.
But this one, it was like every 2 or 3 seconds, there was something there, whether it was plot lift, thank God there were no dialogue lifts from other shows.
No direct dialogue lifts. But you're right. There were multiple shot lifts. There was even, I pointed out when we first started to catch on, oh shit, they're just doing Star Trek 2. When Riker and Picard come aboard the Titan, not only do they do the bosun's whistle, exactly from like same whistle, same shot as Star Trek 2. Picard even stops and inspects a random crew member lined up like Kirk does in Star Trek 2. It's like, oh my God, they're doing beat for beat lifts from a movie that none of these characters were even in.
No, but it's like they're going, oh, shit, we got to save this ship. Let's pull in everything. Right.
Yeah.
And I hope that people are smart enough to recognize what it is they're doing. Right.
Yeah.
I hope that they're not like, oh, what a great callback, making the Titan look more like the classic, retrofit Enterprise from the movie series. Yeah. No, that wasn't inspired. They're desperate. That's
hackneyed.
They're doing everything they can to keep your attention and make you feel good.
Yeah.
While distracting you from the fact that we almost got no plot in this season, in this episode 1.
Yeah.
We found out, it kind of does the thing. It raises a bunch of questions. It establishes 1 or 2 characters, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we got Crusher and we got Will, and that's it. Next episode, who knows how we're gonna get Geordi.
How long are they going to string out? How long are they going to string out Worf? Because Worf is clearly Raffi's handler in Starfleet Intelligence.
Episode 5.
Episode 5, and oh my God, it's Worf! Didn't see that coming. Like, come on.
I don't know when, but he probably comes on after they figure out who the bad guy is. So who knows how long that's going to take? Who the bad guy is and what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Right. Who knows how long it's going to take them in the show to get there. Next episode is probably going to be, hopefully, and I'm hoping they don't keep her refrigerated for a long time.
Yeah.
confirmation. Oh, he disappeared completely.
He came back.
Confirmation that yes, that kid is Jean-Luc Picard's child.
Yeah.
And why did you keep it from me? That I'm curious to see them write their way out of that.
Yeah.
Why she took off to go have a baby
and never came back.
And I wouldn't put it past them to do a little misdirect that she lies about it.
Right.
And then
she says, "Oh, he's not
season,
your son, Jean-Luc," and then it turns out he is. Yeah.
And then it turns out, oh, she lied. Maybe it'll even be something weirder and stranger. Like, ever since Wesley disappeared, not telling anybody or ever coming around, except that one time when Will and Deanna got married.
Yeah.
I decided to take some of Jack's DNA and re-impregnate myself and have another baby.
That's perfect. That's what's in the case.
Oh, shit.
It's Jack's genetic material. And but the kid
is a clone of Jack.
It's a clone of Jack, but he sounds like Jean-Luc because he listened to the captain's law.
And he just turned old enough for her to start fucking him.
Oh, you just wrote a much more interesting and gross show.
It'll never happen. That can't be
it.
No. That can't be it. No.
That can't. I don't think he can't be a clone of Jack. But now that you've said that, like her making herself like a test tube baby with Jack's DNA and her now that you've said that, we said pick the dumbest option.
Pick the dumbest option.
I mean, if the writers thought of that.
It has to be dumb, but it can't be super intelligent. It seems like the writers of the show forget, that it's a science-based show, that while some of the physics are made up, she had a thing where she had to warm up the warp drive before they could take off.
Well, it was cold. Needed to warm it up first.
We've heard Geordi say a lot of things before we could just take off into warp. He's never said, just give it a minute. It needs to warm up. We've got to warm up the engine, sir. And it's like, it's not a fucking car in Wisconsin in the winter. It is a goddamn spaceship.
It's a diesel where you turn the key and you wait for the little light to go off.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can
all the computer has to say is, it will take this amount of time for the warp drive to come online. Right? We've heard it said before. Not it's going to take this amount of time for the warp drive to warm up.
It needs to warm up.
Because, you shoveled dilithium crystals into it and it burns like a fucking steam train.
It's a steam engine.
It's powered on diamonds like Mr. Freeze's suit from Batman and Robin.
Of course it is.
But they forget little things like that all the time. Right? Like cloning and, stuff like that. And if you drink a drink, you can summon a Q. Yeah,
there's a magic Q summoning bottle.
Mm-hmm. And of course, because this thing was filled with Easter eggs, we sat through the LCAR screen looking at stuff, trying to see if there are Easter eggs in that.
Yeah.
And there probably are, but I don't give a shit. I don't care.
So, bottom line, if you are the kind of Star Trek fan where you don't need a story or stakes or anything coherent or meaningful or whatever. So far, we've watched 10% of it. It's a 10 episode series.
That's true. 10% so far. They've set up some of the stuff that will hopefully pay off for the rest of the show.
Yes.
But all of our characters have managed to do is find somebody.
Yes. And she was asleep, so she couldn't tell him anything.
What do we know? There are some bad guys. Who are they? Yes. We don't know. What do they want? I don't know. Why has Beverly been gone? We kind of have an idea, but we're not sure. We don't have anything solid. Will she talk about it later? Knowing the nature of what these shows have been like in the past, no, she's not. The next episode, we don't have time for that, Jean-Luc. We've got to do X, Y, and Z because the mystery people are coming to kill us. Quick, let's find Geordi for some reason.
Yes.
Geordi, I don't even know how Geordi, I guess because Geordi worked at the Daystrom Institute and the super weapon from the one that got stolen, the whole Rafi side,
The Raffi
plot,
subplot. Yeah.
that's going to work into it because I'm sure they're related, right?
Oh God, I hope they are. I hope it's not just Raffi going off and doing some random shit for no reason that's not connected to anything.
Mm-hmm. And it's good to know that Starfleet intelligence will willingly hire someone with unresolved
Addiction issues. That we see that she's still apparently like she has the drug in her hand and she does let it go, but she's seriously tempted. So it's like, oh, that's good that she has this job.
Also, don't we live in the future? Don't we live in the future where if you get addicted to a drug, you go to the doctor and say, hey, I took a little bit too much of this. I think I'm addicted. And they go, sure. And they give you a hypo spray and
they give you a shot for it. Yeah.
Fucking fine afterwards.
You are no longer a heroin addict.
Thanks, Doc.
Yeah. So yeah, if
heroin kits that you get out of your fucking replicator comes with the anti-addiction hypo.
Don't forget to take this one.
You have the hypo full of heroin, and you have the hype that turns off before you can OD, and then you have the hypo of the anti-addiction that you take in the morning, so you can get through your day.
I love the idea that replicators make safe heroin for people.
Fuck it. They make
it's the future.
They have synthahol. There's syntheheroin. There's
syntheheroin.
Synthacrack. Syntha anything that you want.
It's similar to real heroin, but its narcotic effects can be easily dismissed.
In the puritanical, very judgy TNG, the episode where Wesley goes, "Why would anyone take a drug that causes them problems?"
The very special episode, yeah. And Tasha is like, well, Wesley.
Nancy Reagan, our Lord and Savior, about the drug crisis said.
The greatest first lady in the history of the United States.
Mm-hmm. Which Tasha should have said is, shut your fucking mouth. Do you know what it's like out there? Not everything's perfect, little baby. Not everyone can breastfeed until they're 10, you fucking freak. People out in the real world, have you ever been in a failed colony, had to run for your life? Exactly. You get raped 15 or 16 times on a failed colony, and then you tell me why people take drugs.
Why would anybody take drugs, Wesley? I got 2 words for you, buddy. Rape gangs. And if you didn't catch it that time, wait 10 minutes, because I say it that often in the first season. I'm constantly talking about my backstory and the rape gangs. How dare you ask me that question?
He walks into 10 Forward where they're serving one time when they're serving real alcohol. He goes, I don't understand why anyone would drink so much that they lose their ability to think. Someone just busts him right in the mouth. Shut your fucking mouth.
Throws a glass right at his face.
Do you know how many of my friends I've seen die screaming in Starfleet?
That's when Picard should have said, shut up, Wesley.
That's when everyone should have told Wesley to shut up.
Everybody stands up and turns in unison and goes, shut up, Wesley.
There should have been a shut up, Wesley, every episode that he was in. Shut up, Wesley.
I mean, at least in season 1, when the writers were really in like annoying kid overdrive with him. I mean, he kind of calmed down after that, but yeah, season 1 Wesley is like, oh, this is why people hate him.
Along with the number of appearances he had in that season, and then until they were finally like, just get him off.
He's gonna go to the academy.
He'll show up once a season. It'll be fine.
We'll do 1 Wesley episode a year. And after that, the Wesley episodes were pretty good. When he left the show and would just come back occasionally, the Wesley episodes were pretty good after that. But
because when he came back, he was in trouble.
Yes. Oops. I was peer pressured into doing a deadly shuttlecraft stuff.
Or his final appearance where the Traveler convinced him, don't worry about them. It's their problem. Fuck that.
Forget all about your friends and your family, the people you've known all your life.
Yeah, they'll figure it out. You need to come with me.
Your space Mozart.
That's right, I guess. Or you're joining the Gary
Travelers,
the
Travelers Agency. You're joining the Travelers group.
Anyway, so that's what we think about episode 1 of Picard season 3.
If you like nostalgia and literally nothing else, you'll probably love this episode. And if the rest of it's like this, you'll love this. You'll love this season of the show.
But if you're waiting to see what was happening, you're going to have to wait until the next episode.
Yeah.
Because nothing's presented in this episode that is surprising or new that they haven't kept, that you couldn't have guessed at.
I wonder if they're going to just blatantly rip off a different Star Trek movie every episode.
Well, that's kind of hard to pin down because they ripped off 4 of them.
That's true.
There was so
mostly
much
Star Trek.
You pointed out the bunk bed scene is from Star Trek 6.
Yeah, from Star Trek 6.
The bar scene is from Star Trek 3.
That's
You know. Yeah,
but
Genesis. How can hear me with ears that big?
With ears.
How can you be deaf with ears that big? It's like, okay, fine. All right, whatever.
Yeah.
Now, if this is their approach to the very first episode, which is a whole lot of nostalgia, I hope you guys get your fill. I hope by season 4 you're like, please no more. I can't possibly eat any more nostalgic Star Trek, please. I just want a plot. Can I have a plot, please? Instead of, one thing gets it in Picard, it was always like you get a half answer.
Yeah.
Maybe you get a quarter of an answer and you're spoon fed the full answer over several episodes rather than someone saying, hey, okay, so here's what's going on. No one does that.
No,
they say some sort of lofty dialogue, half sentence. It's like nothing you've ever faced before, Picard. And then they die. And Picard's like, whoa,
what did that mean?
Someone get me a chair. Oh, can we mention that? So we've already mentioned it. If you haven't seen it, count the number of times where the scenes are. And I know he's older, guys. I know.
Yeah, he's like 80, but still, he's hard
older
to miss.
Meanwhile, William Shatner is riding around on a fucking electric bike all over Los Angeles.
William Shatner's going to space and like turning cartwheels and riding horses.
He's going to space and riding on a horse, probably. And we cut back to a guy who's younger than him.
10 years younger.
Yeah.
10 years younger.
And he's sitting down a lot. So
yeah, he's tired.
They brought in Will, but they even have to acknowledge that Will Riker's older.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
which
now
is fine. Like acknowledging that they're older is fine, is what they should do. But
so now we have Picard Jr. and he can do all the shooting and rolling and punching.
We need the young character to do the action.
Since they bell jarred Elmo. I don't know where he went. Where did he go?
He hasn't even been mentioned yet.
I hope they never do.
They probably won't.
I hope they probably won't. Remember how important he was to Rafi last season?
No, she's hooked on her grandkid now. So
I hope he accidentally killed himself with his own sword. That's what I hope.
Choose to live. Oh shit.
Oh dang it. Oh,
he accidentally sliced my guts open. Oh shit.
Oh, I'm stepping on him.
Oh damn.
That's
bad. I'm so dead.
I'm really dead now. Sorry, students. Oh, look away.
Don't look. It's not good.
If they mention him, I think they're mentioning him in passing. What about what's her face? What's her nuts? The robot. The main character from Picard season 1. Do you think she'll even be in this?
They clearly wanted her to be in season 2 bad enough that even though they couldn't think of anything to do with her actual character, they gave her an identical different character to play just so she could be in the show. So I don't know, maybe she'll show up at some point, but I don't know. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't bet on it. I'm kind of surprised the Raffi's even in it because it's clearly like, oh no, this is the TNG reunions show now,
And do you think Brent Spiner kicks himself every fucking time whenever he needs to make an appearance in Picard that he has to either be another Sun descendant or lore now?
Now he's got to be lore because they killed off Data.
Because he said, let's kill off Data. I'll never play Data again. Oh, that's fine. Kill him.
It's like he said, oh yeah, I'll just come back for this one last thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll play Data one last time and you can kill him off for good. And they're like, okay. And then 2 years later, they're like, hey, we're doing the TNG reunion. And he's like, you motherfuckers. Why did you kill off Data when you were doing the TNG reunion?
The problem is he left no back door. Even Spock, even Leonard Nimoy, when he thought he was done with it, he still left a back door open.
Yeah.
For him to come back.
Yeah.
Smart. So he could come back immediately.
Which he immediately did. As soon as he saw how much money it was making, he was like, if you want me to come back.
And here's how you end. Here's how, if you wanted it to have a back door for Data, after the sad to absent friends bullshit, Geordi walks into his room, he turns on his computer, and a little holographic, the computer on his voice answers back, and it's Data. He's made a backup copy of himself.
There you go. Data is Max
all
Headroom.
It has to be is hello, Geordi. And that's it. Exactly.
It's Max Headroom.
He made a backup copy, which you would think that would be something Data would do.
Yeah. He is a robot after all.
True, he is.
You'd think he would do that like before every time he goes on a dangerous mission. Like he just plugs his finger into the socket and uploads the most recent version. And,
I mean, shit, they did it in the shittiest Star Wars movie ever made with C-3PO.
That's right. Yes. Where he gives the tearful farewell to his friends. And then like 5 minutes later, it's like, oh, he's fine. He just forgot the last few days.
Mm-hmm. R2-D2 was never worried. He had the backup for C-3PO.
R2's like, I got your backup, dude. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but his only translator was gone, so he couldn't really tell anybody. He'd be like, no, don't worry, it's fine.
What is he saying?
And it's like beep boop boop beep boop boop. He's like, oh, those R2 units are fucking mentally handicapped. They can't.
Yeah, they don't even know what they're saying.
He's probably talking to a wall or some shit.
Bleep, 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 whatever. I mean, Luke used to pretend he knew what he was saying, but I knew that was bullshit. Luke never had a fucking clue what he was saying.
If we follow through with our normal discussions, we should just start talking about The Last of Us before we close out the show.
I was going to mention it, but I didn't want to prolong this anymore. I did have the thought. I thought, boy, like watching The Last of Us the last few weeks has really spoiled me because
let's stay on target. Let's keep it to Star Trek.
Yeah, because like this, having been watching, I mean, specifically The Last of Us, because it's a really good show, but other shows as well. Since the last season of Picard, it's like, oh, there are shows that actually know how to do this. Mm-hmm. And apparently the creators of at least of this particular Star Trek show, and to a lesser extent Discovery, because it's always had these problems as well, but not nearly as bad as Picard. Like they insist on doing these super, super tightly serialized season-long stories, and they have no fucking idea how to write it. But they just keep coming back to it every year and making the same mistakes, only worse each time.
And they have some things when it comes to writing, especially the Picard stuff. They have some advantages that others don't. And one of the advantages they have is that we know who these characters are already. Especially
this year, because they're bringing everybody back from the old show. Yeah.
We don't really need an introduction to who Jean-Luc Picard was, what he's been doing, all this other stuff, unless they intend to fuck up the character. And through the insistence of Patrick Stewart and Picard 1 and 2, we were going to fuck up the character, right? Yeah. We're just going to fuck him up. And because Patrick Stewart had things that he wanted Jean-Luc Picard to have done, and one of those things was mommy trauma, which just fell out of the air, making up that he had no close relationships when it was obviously he did at the end of the series.
Yeah.
Right.
And which this show in the first episode of this show, this season already wound back, which again, like I'm fine with, I don't give a shit, but it is interesting that like, the characterization of Picard has been so slipshod in this series that they had to spend the entire previous season pretending that he has never had close relationships just for the sake of their dumb story that they wanted to tell about how Q teaches him how to love.
So there is something, yeah.
And then in the episode, and then in this episode we just watched, you have to have Laris and him talking about Beverly and mention like, oh yeah, you guys were really close back in the day. Oh really? I thought he never got close to anyone.
Oh, ever. He never let anyone in.
Like
until
okay,
he went
I guess
through
whatever.
his little time travel Q descendant, whatever season 2 was.
When now everybody was different people, but they looked the same.
And now he can love with an open heart.
Yeah.
Why he never mentioned that he was kind of close to Beverly, but he hasn't seen her in 20 years in season 2, I don't know, because they had to make it up for season 3.
Yeah.
But there's a certain thing. You don't care for canon, and I understand that.
I don't. I don't put it ahead of story.
You don't care about historical canon, the history of a series, history of
other
world, things
like if it's something that happened in another show,
you don't really give it. You don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But there is something about character canon. There is character consistency. What do we know that's consistent of what is it that makes up this character? What makes this character this way? Right.
Right.
And the transition, we had 15 years between the original series and the movies. And they kept the characters consistent, but they also allowed them to grow based on what they had. Right. Mm-hmm. In this one, they had to manufacture shit for Picard. And we had even more time between the end of the series. I mean, the end of the last movie, I think, and the first season of Picard was more than 15 years. It was
like 17 or 18 years, I think, something like that. Yeah.
Actually, I think that the time between Star Trek, the original series and the movie wasn't 15 years. It was more like 11. It wasn't that many.
That's true, because it was 79, I think, when it was the very, very end of 79 when the first.
But you took what the core character was, and you could expand on it. But what they've been doing with Picard is that they've been retconning him.
Oh yeah,
and they've been retconning him based on the desires of their lead star and executive producer. And there were things that he said he wanted Picard to go through, I guess. And they kind of ran opposite of who Picard was. And I've always said it seems like the people who've been writing Picard are aware of the movies, not really aware of the relationships that he had in TNG. And explain to me this. Picard season 1 was based on his absolute dedication, love, and friendship with Data.
Yes.
Something that I can argue, based on what we saw in the TV show, he didn't have. That relationship with Geordi and Data, that makes sense. Picard sometimes was an obstacle to Data's growth as an organism. But then in season 2, we're told he doesn't have relationships like that.
He's never been close to anyone.
No.
So ever. Much so that it's like a thing that people who know him wonder about.
Exactly.
Why have you never been close to anyone, Jean-Luc? And it's like, oh, I guess that's just a thing about him. Everybody's supposed to know.
Everyone knows that. Why did he do this thing for Data in season 1? Who knows? Why did he seek out Will Riker? Oh, no reason. He's not close with them either.
They're not close or anything. There's not an obvious long-term deep friendship and respect between those two people.
At the risk, and I've mentioned this to you before in our private conversations, Patrick Stewart isn't a writer. He's an actor.
Yes.
Who's been given way too much. And unless I'm missing the mark, because this show is everything that he didn't want. He did not want a reunion show. Yeah. He did not want a reunion of TNG. But this last season, it's like, no, it's a reunion of TNG, and you're just going to do it because here's how much money you're going to lose if we don't pull it out of the fucking fire at this point. But I mean, that I think more than anything, and I know people have been hesitant because everyone loves Patrick Stewart, blah, blah, blah. I love Patrick Stewart too.
Of course,
but I would never, ever say, yeah, sit in the writer's room, become the executive producer, has sway over the writers, and then sit down and say, I want this. Because a lot of people have been heaping it on the writers. The writers the past 2 seasons do deserve the blame for what's happening, but they may have also been in this kind of situation. We have this great idea about having to go back through time and have to save the Starfleet by doing this thing that will prevent them from becoming a fascist dictatorship, and we have it all mapped out. And Jean-Luc goes, I want the show to be about how I'm not close to people and I have mommy issues. Don't you mean Jean-Luc Picard? Yes. Did I say I mean,
yes, we're different. We're different people.
I want it to be about Jean-Luc Picard always being alone and mommy issues. What kind of mommy issues? Did she spank you? No, she killed herself.
Like, oh, holy shit.
And they were like, would you want, we have to put it in? Yes. Go.
My mother committed suicide in our home. When I was a child.
Go destroy everything you had for season 2 and make it all fit together so that it all works somehow.
I just got this image of Patrick Stewart standing there in the writer's room and like tearing the outline they had come up with in half while he makes direct eye contact with the showrunner. Just, this won't do at all.
No. And then he's sitting in the writer's room and they're doing things like, okay, so we have this scene where murder girl, whatever her name is, Ingrid Girardi, whatever,
that murderer.
She's like combined with the queen. We got to figure out a way so they could follow her. And Picard goes, I know, she can go into a bar and break a window.
Good idea, what? Patrick.
I've written it down. It's in the script.
It's great screenwriting.
Wake me up.
I want her to eat car batteries. She eats batteries. They find a row of cars. She's eaten all the batteries. Okay, that's a little weird. I want her to eat batteries.
Is there a way for her to be one? Can we just put a battery in like string? Okay,
she becomes a giant battery who wants to destroy the world.
And then her and Jean-Luc make out naked.
Oh, and that's why the Borg ships are square. They look like batteries. Big square car batteries in space.
They're batteries for even bigger Borg ships. Okay.
Okay. Can we just use some of that?
Do you think there were a lot of arguments about having to restructure season 3?
I don't know. I mean,
if it is going to be the entire cast back, why are they even calling it Picard?
That's true.
I mean,
I don't know. I would imagine because Patrick Stewart was especially in the media he did to promote the first season. Like he was pretty frank about the fact that he didn't want to do a reunion. That
he was very direct about it.
Yeah. So I imagine there had to be a conversation between. I would assume Alex Kurtzman, maybe Akiva Goldsman, or Terry Matalas, or some of the creative people attached specifically.
I believe
to the series,
that the discussion had all of the executive producers and a big chart, and the big chart had a red arrow going down. And
this is the show so far.
So this is where we premiered, and all the way down here is the last episode that went out. This is what we call viewer drop off, as they decide they don't give a shit about what's going to happen because they don't like it. So next year, we're going to give them the reunion show.
Yes.
And we're going to hastily put together a preview that's going to go out with episode 5, which is just going to have the characters from TNG.
We're going to release makeup tests for the characters and call them character trailers. Everybody will love it.
Yeah, they'll just be standing there to a voiceover. We have nothing shot. We have nothing planned, but this is what we're doing. And Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart probably said, But I had a few ideas, and they said, "Shut up, shut up, shut up."
No.
You're done with your ideas. It's okay. Hopefully. Unless he made a pragmatic decision. He says, yes, I understand we should do because I want to get my money and I like money.
I want my money.
I want my money. So we'll go ahead and do it. We'll have a reunion show. Fine. But if they let him have some ideas for this season,
yeah,
and my sneaking suspicion is Picard Jr. is his idea for this season.
He's guilty because he's been an absentee parent all these years.
Mm-hmm.
Which again is a lift from Star Trek 2.
We know. We know.
Oh, the captain of the Enterprise finds his long lost son. Oh wow, where have I heard that before?
See, I feel bad for Star Trek writers because they're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. You have to be able to hit the impossible sweet spot. It's like trying to hit a home run. Okay. Too much nostalgia and people don't like it. Like, we've seen this before. This is the same thing. It's just boring. Why didn't you give us something different? Too little nostalgia and it's too different. People go, this isn't like Star Trek anymore. I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
You have to hit that sweet spot that satisfies everyone. And I don't think the writers over there at Star Trek have figured out what they have with Strange New Worlds. I think some of them went, well, how'd that happen? And I don't think they know yet just how hard it is to get that, right? To hit that spot, right? So
yeah, well, I don't know.
We'll see how this turns out.
We'll see how it turns out. As we've said a couple of times already, it's just the first episode. Maybe they got all of the nostalgia porn out of their systems in the first episode.
Just so long as the last shot of episode 10 is Jean-Luc Picard's torpedo tube being launched into a black hole, that's all I care about.
With Geordi playing the bagpipes as Riker delivers a tearful eulogy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tearful goodbye. Data walks out and says, turns out I'm not dead after all.
Hey, I've been over in the closet the whole time. Hi, everybody.
That's right. I saved a backup personality routine into B4. Isn't that great?
I'm back.
I'm back. Are you sure you're not Lore? No. But
no,
Lore's
I'm
not dead because we're keeping him around so that 20 years from now, when I can barely move, we can do the Data series.
When Brent Spiner is 90 and he's like, I think I got one more in me.
Steve, when the price point on deep fakes goes down low enough,
then we're getting TNG seasons 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
They'll never make an original Star Trek thing ever again.
They're just going to crank out AI-generated photorealistic Star Trek TNG episodes till the end of time.
No matter how you felt about Mandalorian Season 2, fuck me if that was not Mark Hamill in that fucking show.
Oh, the effect was good. Visually, the effect was good. And the Boba Fett episode that he was in, it was even better. I mean, yeah, technically
that's what I mean. The Boba Fett one.
Yeah, the Boba Fett. Yeah. Technically, it was terrific. I mean, it was terrifying because it's like,
they
don't need actors. They don't need actors anymore.
They just need stands in, and then we put digital makeup on them.
Just put a digital head on you. Yeah. Yeah. Great. Cool.
We don't need to hire anybody anymore. We don't need to.
Oh, good.
Great. Isn't there a movie with James Dean coming out soon?
Yes. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that for a while, but that apparently
they stopped for a moment and said, "This is morbid."
Maybe the guy who was going to do it looked at himself in the mirror and had like a moment of clarity.
10 years from now, if someone at Paramount said, "Hey, we want to turn all of the Star Trek animated episodes into real episodes, and we're just going to deep fake everybody,"
yeah.
They could probably do it if the price point is right.
Absolutely.
It would still be a cartoon, but I mean,
you couldn't tell.
Yeah, you couldn't tell. They're probably waiting for all of them to be dead.
Yeah. Yep.
Because it's easier to
negotiate. They don't have to pay anybody.
It's easier to negotiate with an estate than it is a living actor.
Because you could say, hey, we could just not do this and pay you nothing. Or we could do it and pay you a tiny little bit.
I hope it's Koenig. I hope
Yeah,
it's
you hope
Pavel.
Koenig's the last
I hope
holdout.
Pavel is the last one, and they're like jumping up and down like they gotta pee, going, "Come on, please, just die so we can get." And he's like, "You want that? You need to pay me everything.
Give me my money." Like we were saying, like I hope Michael Dorn's doing them with this season of Picard.
Mm-hmm.
I hope he has taken them to the cleaners. That is the one thing that no matter how much I talk shit about this show for the next 9 weeks as we watch the rest of it, please never forget, viewers at home, I am very happy for all of these people for getting hopefully a very nice payday to put themselves through this, to do this shit. Which, other than I'm sure it's nice to be working together again, and I'm sure they get like a nostalgic feeling for, sort of doing Star Trek stuff again. But I mean,
from everything we've seen, they all got along very well together.
Oh, they seem to have always gotten along well together. Yeah. And to have stayed in touch and, so I'm sure that they enjoy working together again. But in terms of like creative value or artistic value of this material, like there's just nothing here. There's just nothing here.
Nothing yet. And like we said before, following their pattern, it's hard to go wrong with the first episode because, they're leaving it open to what's going to happen. The failure of in my opinion, the last two Picard series was the series. When you continued down and you're like, okay, I hate to say this, Steve, but my favorite thing from Picard season 2, because you knew I didn't like Picard season 1.
Right.
And you did.
I liked it more than you did. Yeah.
And
I liked it a lot more than you did.
I warned you. I said, I don't see good things coming for this. The next one was watching your hope die in your eyes every time you did a review of it. You were like, okay, well, it's season 1, and there's a lot I didn't like, but hopefully it'll get better. And then you do your review of episode 2, and you're like, okay, well, episode 2 is it's okay, but hopefully they're going to pick it up and they're going to get it back together. And then episode 3. So we're 3 episodes in. You have like empty beer bottles behind you, but you're still trying. God bless you. You're still trying. And then by episode 5, you're just like, so I don't see how they're going to pull off this season. And you were right. They weren't.
I don't think this show was written by a person who was paying attention at all to anything.
I think that's when that's when I stepped in and said, okay, I've caught up to you.
Yeah. You started calling me. You started, you would, for the last, I guess probably about the last half or so of season 2, like you would call me after you watched the episode and we would talk about it.
When you see a friend fall down, you pick them up. You just don't stand there and laugh at them.
That's what we're doing here. We're doing it together.
And here's
we're holding each other up.
I'm hopeful, just like the start of any Star Trek, something.
Yes.
I'm hopeful that this is the start of something new and different. I'm hopeful that this is the max amount of nostalgia that we get. I'm hopeful that they've learned to tell a story over the course of 10 episodes. But they've given me nothing to reassure me that they can do it.
That is exactly where I am at with it.
Other than a new showrunner. But that's it.
So, who has a good resume, but again, just based on this episode, has not impressed me at all. I mean, not even a little bit.
But
we'll see.
Here's something else. One last thing before we end.
Okay. Yeah.
Can someone please turn some lights on the bridges of the goddamn...
please.
You said this. So Beverly's ship is on 10% power. It's, dark. There's steam coming down. And you said a correct thing. It's better lit than the bridge of the Titan.
Yes. The fully functional starship that they were just on. Everything is so, why is it so dark? I don't expect it to be like brightly, evenly lit like the old TV show, but like if you watch,
you mean on Strange New Worlds?
Well, that Strange New Worlds still does dramatic lighting, but you can see everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can see what's happening in the scene. It's
dramatic lighting when they go to red alert. Right.
Yeah. And even then you can still see everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just like a dark fog over everything. Like you can see the characters and the things that they're doing.
Picard's mansion, dark. Even when
Yeah.
it's light outside, it's still dark inside,
Yeah.
right? Every bar that we're in, dark, right?
Yeah.
Every spaceship we're in, dark.
Yes.
Corridors, dark. Bridges, dark. Derelict ships, okay, that I understand that. That's dark. But
Sure.
if everything is dark, then how are we supposed to know tonally what the difference is between a good place and a bad place? You would think
Yeah.
that maybe the mansion would be warmly lit, right? But
Since it's his house.
since it's his house. But it's not. It's just dark. Oh, but they have a fireplace, and fireplaces are warm. No, warmly lit. You orange tones, yellow tones. When the sunlight comes in, it's not stabbing into a blackened room, right?
Somehow even the bright orange nebula they end up in is dark.
Is dark.
How did they pull that off? It's nothing but orange and yellow, but it's like dimly lit. How do you even do that?
I don't blame the Titans captain for being asleep all the time, because it's always dark.
His circadian rhythms are completely off.
That's right.
Like,
oh, and thanks for introducing a piece of shit captain.
Again, it's the first episode. Maybe he will have hidden depths revealed, but so far his character is he's an asshole, and that's
Hi, I'm an asshole.
Hi, I'm an asshole. Hey, I don't like your wine. Hey, I don't like jazz. Like, could they have been any lazier in establishing that this guy is an asshole?
Irresponsible. Boom, boom, boom. I'm kind of a racist against Borgs. Boom, boom, boom. I run a tight ship and everything runs great. Okay, well, I'm giving the con to my first officer, even though we're not on the bridge, we're in a dining room, and also I'm leaving. Oh, by the way, I was not on the bridge when anyone arrived, nor was I on a bridge when people were stealing ships stealing shuttlecraft out of. I was asleep. I was sleeping in my quarters. So I'm an asshole, and I'm not that good at my job, really.
Oh, awful.
It was
just awful.
He was made for them to hate, for us to hate, and for them to spar up against. Why?
Yeah.
Maybe it'll. Oh, Jesus! I can't believe I'm saying. Maybe it'll pay off in a later episode. No,
that's the
carrot
at the end of the stick that you never get.
I'm saying it right now. Nope. Remember the scientist that we had to get from Free Cloud or Freetown or Sunset or whatever the fuck the name of them was?
Free Cloud, yeah.
Free Cloud. And we got him back to the ship, and he was alive for 5 minutes, and then he died.
He was immediately murdered. or like Hugh. They bring back Hugh, and it's like, hey, look, it's Hugh. Remember Hugh? He's dead. Oh, Echem. Hey, Voyager fans, Echem, he's dead.
He's dying when you meet him. He's being tortured.
When you meet him, he's being tortured to death the first moment you see him. Which I didn't mind, because fuck Echeb. But you know, if you had some kind of affection for that character.
No, neither
did I. I was like, oh no, I wasn't one of the people. Oh no, they killed Echeb. Oh, Echeb, I kind of remember him. Anyway, okay.
Going by the first episode, expect more.
Expect more nostalgia being punched in your face.
I'm sure we're going to have name drops of Klingons.
Oh God.
Martok. Maybe they'll forget what they did with Worf's brother and drop his name again.
Yeah, maybe he had his brain reversed back into his old self, and now he's just going to be back. Hey, and you know what? If that gets Tony Todd a payday, good for him.
I'm sure they'll bring up Alexander.
Sure they will. Alexander's probably the Chancellor by now. Alexander's the leader of the Empire.
Please no. Please no. Please no. But I wouldn't put it past it. If it's dumb, it could be in there.
Why not find one of the dumbest ways imaginable to bring back one of the worst characters they ever created on that show?
I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out that the main bad guy is actually what's-her-face, evil Romulan Tasha.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see.
Sela.
They
gotta get Denise Crosby wedged in there somehow.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to do a full-on reunion.
Yeah, they've got to come up with a way for Moriarty to somehow still be alive.
Oh my fucking God. We haven't even gotten to, Moriarty's going to show up at some point because he was in the trailer.
Here's a question. Where was he when the Enterprise crashed into that planet in Generations?
He was in like a little cube on somebody's desk.
He was like in a little bottle kind of thing. I think they left it with Barclay.
Didn't Barclay have it?
Yeah.
Or at least that was the impression that we were left with.
Oh God, does that mean Barclay's going to be in this?
Oh God.
So you notice how we were reacting to the exciting possibilities, the characters that we loved might show up later on. And it's not like, oh boy, I can't wait to see what's going to, it's, oh shit, what are they going to do to them?
Yeah, because it's going to be bad and it's going to be pointless and it's going to be because it's done with the assumption that the apparently true assumption in the case of a lot of fans that we just want to see them.
Mm-hmm.
We don't care what they're doing. We don't care what the story is. It could be the dumbest, most obvious bullshit you could ever imagine.
So
it was just nice to see Barclay again. Oh, we got to see Barclay.
So they can
go
keep
to a fucking fan convention if you want to see him.
Yeah, Barclay will be there and then he'll die. They'll kill him. And so they can have comments like, love this episode. I cried 5 times. R.I.P. Barclay.
Yeah.
Oh no, Barclay. I crying emoji. I don't fucking know.
Bless your heart.
eggplant shit emoji. I don't know. I don't know these emoji things. I'm old. Okay.
Bless your heart, person who weeps openly at the glimpse of an old Star Trek thing.
How long have we been doing this now?
Too long. Let's wrap it up. So we're going to be back next week to do this again for episode 2.
Wait, what?
Yes, we're doing episode 2 next week.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's fine.
We did agree. You did say.
I did agree. I meant
you don't want me to have to watch it. You don't want me to have to watch it by myself, do you?
No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to.
And I don't want to do that to you either.
Well, if I wasn't doing this with you, I wouldn't be watching the fucking shit at all.
Well, in that case, I apologize.
It's okay. I'm doing it for you, buddy. I'm doing it for you.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for sticking with us. Hopefully you stick with us as we review the rest of the season. We'll see you next week.